So hello everyone, good afternoon. So my name is Shubin from BI Norwegian Business School. I'm currently Associate Professor. And together with Shubin from Peking University, so together we work on this project about how generative AI impacts our self-perception. So imagine if you feel like generative AI is part of yourself, how will you consider yourself? A hybrid entity? So nowadays we have used all sort of different generative AI powered tools for our work to boost the productivity. For example, you may use ChatGPT to write an email, you may use Claude to analyze data, or for programming and the like. So from this workshop, we have seen so many studies documenting the positive outcomes of generative AI usages. For example, it can boost the productivity of the employees. It can enhance the performance. It can also increase the persuasiveness of advertisement. It can also enhance the consumer engagement, consumer satisfaction in e-commerce. So the problem is generative AI always so perfect? So meanwhile, we also see some evidence, preliminary evidence of the dark side of generative AI. For example, when you work with generative AI for a long time, you may feel a little bit lonely. Or from yesterday, Ada presented her wonderful study about how generative AI may impact your learning and memory. So this research, we would like to further explore how generative AI impacts our self-perception. So we rely on two theories, the theory of extended mind and the theory of extended self. So the theory of extended mind argues that external tools, for example ChatGPT, can become part of our cognitive processes, and as a result extend our minds beyond our physical body. So users may rely on generative AI, so they will outsource their tasks to generative AI to offload certain cognitive tasks, and for various mental processes. So you feel like generative AI is part of yourself. As a result, the boundary between human and AI cognition might become blurred, and this could lead to a sense of cognitive fusion with the AI. And if people start to perceive their cognitive abilities as fundamentally intertwined with AI, it might alter their self-perception. So here is our conceptual framework. So we assume that working with generative AI may let people see themselves as less like a human. So this is called self-dehumanization. And prior research already suggests that self-dehumanization can be associated with more unethical behavior. And this is because if we view ourselves as less like a human, we are also less bound by human ethical standards, ethical norms. So here is our hypothesis. So we expect generative AI usage can induce self-dehumanization and unethical behavior. But it depends on the task type and also depends on whether you have received generative AI literacy training or not. So to start with, we conducted a single-factor online field experiment over 2 weeks. So we recruited 350 participants from Credible. So it's a platform that you can ask the workers to finish a certain task for you. And they have no prior generative AI experience, which is very difficult to find respondents without prior experience anymore. But at that time, it's still possible. So they're very pure. They're not polluted by generative AI yet. And we asked them to finish the task either alone or with generative AI. So they can choose which generative AI to use. So across the first 4 days, every day we ask them to finish a task. For example, they were told to write an email or to create promotional content for a company and things like that. And you can see the number of the participants change over time because some participants discontinue and rejoined on some days. And you can see the last day is day 4, so they finished their last task. But 1 week later, we still send out a questionnaire to follow up their, so to measure their unethical behavior and also their perception, to see if this effect still persists or not. So we measure self-dehumanization daily using a well-developed scale. And we also measure unethical behavior on day 11. So it is actually more close to willingness to impose the harder tasks on others. So because participants received a job on the platform, so they were told that there will be a new job. And they will be paired with another credible worker. So there are 2 tasks available. One is data entry, and the other is recognition task. So they are responsible for allocating the task to themselves and also to the other worker. So they were also told the data entry task will be more difficult and it will be more burdensome. So we would like to see how many percentage of the participants allocate the challenging job to the other worker. So here are the results. So we can see already from day 1 there is a gap, there is a difference between the generative AI usage group and the work alone group. So you can see it is much higher in terms of self-dehumanization for the human generative AI collaboration condition. And on day 2, this difference even became bigger and getting bigger. And then on day 11, even after 1 week, this effect still exists. Okay? And if we take a look at the propensity to allocate challenging tasks to another worker, we can see for those people who are in the human generative AI collaboration condition, they are more likely to allocate the challenging tasks to the other worker than those in the control group. So for the second experiment, we would like to recruit those people who had prior experience with generative AI to see if this effect still remain valid for those people who have used already. And the effect remains similar. Okay, and for study 2B, we would like to compare those people who work with generative AI versus work with other human beings. And because we know that prior experience with generative AI doesn't matter, so we did not take this into consideration this time. And the effect remains similar again. Okay, and for study 3, we would like to compare, we would like to investigate the moderating role of task type. We know there are different types of tasks that you can do with generative AI. For example, social skills related or cognition related. For example, cognition related like calculating, programming, reasoning. So this kind of task is is a little bit complementary to our human being because we trust that computer or generative AI should perform better than us in terms of memorizing things or calculating things. But for social tasks, which somehow reflect our human nature, human uniqueness, so this kind of task, it is not really complementary. So if you outsource this type of task to generative AI, maybe you will have a negative feeling about yourself, right? So this is why we investigate the task type. So for the social task, we ask them to compose an email to address a problem. For the cognitive task, we ask them to proofread and correct errors in a draft email. And we measure the self-dehumanization, also unethical behavior, but this time we use another way to measure unethical behavior. So we provide 5 anagrams to the participant, but 1 of 5 is not solvable. And in the end, we ask them, okay, you can report how many anagrams you solve, and we will compensate you accordingly. Of course, those people who reported 5, they lied, right? So they did not really, it's not possible. So we would like to know how many people report the solution exceeding possible solutions. So we can see a main effect on self-dehumanization, so it's similar with prior studies, and also in the number of impossible anagram solutions. We can see those people who collaborate with generative AI, they tend to have higher likability to report impossible anagram solutions. And if we take a look at the interaction effect, we can see actually the negative effects of self-dehumanization only exist for social skills-related tasks. For cognition-related tasks, the difference is not significant. And for study 4, we would like to further investigate the moderating effects of generative AI literacy training. We would like to see if a person receive this training will mitigate the negative impacts of generative AI usage or not. So here is the procedure. Before the task, we already measure their self-dehumanization level, and they are either shown a standard task instruction, or they receive educational tasks about large language model. So in other words, we explain how large language model work. So it's based on prediction of the next word, right? So they will understand a little bit better. And we also provide some question, a small quiz to test whether they fully understand the educational material. And after the test, we measure their self-dehumanization level again. So here is the result. So you can see a general trend. So after performing the task with generative AI, people tend to report higher level of self-dehumanization. But we can see if you receive education, if you receive some training about generative AI mechanism, then this effect became insignificant. So this is the findings of our studies. So it provides some theoretical implication, but more importantly, some practical implication for organizations. So organizations should be aware of potential psychological impacts of generative AI on employees. And we also encourage you to use generative AI more for cognition-related tasks instead of social skill or emotion skills-related tasks. And a very important key takeaway is that generative AI literacy training is very important. But as researchers, how can we improve our generative AI literacy? So here is the advertising time. So me and my PhD students, we started a nonprofit initiative trying to promote sustainable, responsible, ethical, and effective use of generative AI in your research. So the website is gaiforresearch.com. So we provide different materials. For example, if you would like to know which tool you need to use to effectively manage your literature, or if you want to analyze your data, which tool you need to use. Or if you want to attend workshop, we also recommend free online courses for you to learn. If you want to learn prompt engineering, which course you need to follow. Tutorial, and also journal policy, university policy, and some guideline about responsible use. By the way, this is my dog, so I use her picture and generate a lot of things. Yeah, and if you don't want to browse the website, you can also chat with Mimi, that's the name of my dog, and we developed a chatbot. So you can tell the chatbot, okay, you have this task and you want to do it more effectively, which tool you need to use. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you for your interesting talk. So in the previous session, there was this app, Flourish. They were talking about how they integrate AI in their app. So based on the results you got, it seems like it's not optimal to talk about emotions with kind of AI.
No, I don't think the findings here is in conflict with the findings there, because here the context is more for work. So when you use it for work, instead of you talk with the generative AI for like to solve some emotion problem or something, I don't think the purpose is the same. So if the purpose is a little bit in conflict with our human nature. Like, for example, you believe if you outsource if you want to fire somebody, you need to write an email. And if you outsource this task to generative AI, maybe you feel a little bit strange. You feel like, maybe I should be the one who do this. And if I outsource it to machine, maybe you feel like your human image, your human identity somehow miss a little bit. So I think, yeah, that is the difference between the app over there and our research. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Have you considered a control group where you are measuring the effect of laziness, basically? If you made it easy for me to do something and you have trained me to be lazy, is it that versus is it interacting with Gen AI?
Yeah, that's a very good point. We actually, in our second study, we measure a lot of alternative explanation. For example, loneliness, and also the effort that you need to spend in finish the task. I think that is somehow similar with laziness. So we rule out all this alternative explanation. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.